Obscurity is permanent. The more we know about something horrible, the more we wish we had known less. Such a scenario begs of ignorance. For it's a bliss to be unaware of danger that will tear our organs and pass us all into the nothingness. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and oldest fear is fear of unknown. There's nothing a man would do to protect his skin. But more importantly, he will go through all the dimensions to ensure his race survives. And that madness is out for jury to decide and categorize a man as narcissist or a savior. Men of peace create weapons of destruction. Those who talk of freedom feel safe after drawing borders. Welcome all to Time Recaps, where we recap movies and shows. Today we're gonna recap an apocalyptic, zombie movie called The Girl with All the Gifts. I should warn you of spoilers ahead. With that being said, relax and watch the recap. The movie begins in a jail cell with a child named Melanie. A siren is sounded and she gets up to ready herself. Two soldiers walk in pointing guns at her, but she greets them with a warm smile. They secure her with straps on a wheelchair and take her to a place where other children have also gathered. This is the classroom, and they will be taught by a teacher whose name is Helen Justineau. They are read a story and escorted back to their cells. For dinner, they're given worms to eat. This scene is so important for us to understand. Melanie didn't have to be said to do certain things. A siren rings and she wakes up. The soldiers come in and she lets them strap her up. It's normal for her. That's her programming. And thus it's important for us to know that what we let into our brains is more important than what we let in our mouths. Talking about mouth, the food she is served is a bucket of worms. That's probably because she was fed that all her life for her to not complain about it anymore. That's how expectations work too. If we're okay with having to eat worms, we are served worms. To not have expectations from life is to be okay to having to eat worms. In the next scene we see an old woman walk by her cell and ask a question to Melanie about Schrodinger's cat. Melanie is quiet this once. Next she is asked to choose a number and she chooses 13. Next day she is back in the class strapped in her wheelchair again, and notices that number 13 is missing. They're asked to write a story and Melanie writes the longest one, projecting herself as a savior. Justineau is overwhelmed and goes to touch her, but is stopped by sudden busting in of an army officer who shows how unsafe it is to touch the kids. He spats his arm and takes it closer to one of the boys. The kid, after sniffing it, starts acting like a zombie, almost like he'd want a bite of that arm. The class start mimicking it too. They're later taken to their respective cells and Melanie expresses her despise for the officer who leaves her strapped to the wheelchair. That night Dr. Caldwell visits her cell and asks for another number. She replies 4, that is number of her own cell. The next morning, Sergeant Park comes and takes her to an elevator and then to outside where gunshots can be heard. The soldiers are guarding against a pack of hungry zombies that seem like can break into the facility any minute now. They go to another building where Dr. Caldwell is seen waiting. She repeats the question on Schrodinger's cat and explains that it means that the cat is both alive and dead at the same time, just like Melanie. She then sedates her and pulls her up on top of a table. Just then, Justineau breaks into the building and attacks one of her assistants. Dr. Caldwell talks her into dropping the weapon. She complies and gets pepper sprayed by the doctor, and 2 army officers barge in to incapacitate her. Here, Dr. Caldwell makes her intentions apparent of developing a vaccine using Melanie, even if it means she has to tear her open to extract what is needed. A siren goes off and she asks to close the window. The assistant is closing the window when a zombie breaks through the window to bite her. She begins her transformation into a zombie and comes after Dr. Caldwell, who herself is injured while warding off a zombie. She makes for the door just in time, locking Melanie with assistant turned zombie. She does nothing to Melanie and Melanie frees herself with the scalpel beside her. Outside, a chaos has broken out with zombies infiltrating the facility. Melanie sees Justineau struggling with the soldiers who had arrested her and launches herself onto them, going full-on zombie. Fatigued, she lays down. Meanwhile, Justineau gets up and takes both of them into a military vehicle. The zombies become successful in breaking into and taking over the facility, and everyone makes a run for their life. Dr. Caldwell drives off with SGT Parks and Kieran. Melanie and Justineau too are inside with them. They get confronted and Justineau frees Melanie, asking her to go for it. Melanie goes for some time before stopping to take in the view of the outside world. She clearly is seeing it first time. They discover that there is no food and water in the truck and the complex isn't responding to their radio. They hence assume everyone back is dead and decide to go to south of Beacon to avail some help. They stop in the middle to fill some water and get attacked by the zombies again. One of the soldier Dylan gets bit here and Sergeant Park waits for the transformation to happen and shoots once Dylan is gone, just like the Schrödinger cat. Sergeant Park cannot start the vehicle and so goes to check the vehicle. He finds it busted and so devises a new strategy to pass through London on foot and reach the tower. It's a double-edged sword and a gamble cause people here have all become zombies, but it's also the quickest way. Sergeant Park and Kieran survey the perimeter and are able to pass quietly using a blocker gel that masks their scent, rendering them largely invisible. Caldwell stops a moving zombie who was pushing the cart and pulls the rug off to see what's in there. She gets horrified to find rats feasting on something bloody and wakes the zombie mother who wakes other zombies up. They hurry and take shelter in an abandoned hospital for the night. Sergeant Park, Kieran and Justin O go for patrolling while Caldwell and Melanie stay back. She reveals that the second-generation zombies were discovered after babies killed their infected mothers by eating organs to get out of their womb. They could learn, talk and act like normal humans except for their cannibalistic tendencies. That night Justin O returns with some new clothes for Melanie and they pass the night. In the morning, more zombies have gathered in front of the building. They discuss various ways to divert them and agree to a plan to let Melanie get out and drive them all away as they will not attack her. Caldwell doesn't like it but majority wins and Melanie is deployed outside. She passes through them and finds a stray cat that she hunts down and eats. She then enters an abandoned house and finds a dog. She carries him and lets him loose, sending the zombies into frenzy that take after the dog like crazy. This scene too made me think. From the zombies' perspective, Caldwell and others were the prize. But they were too lazy to climb to get them all. In life too, we slack sometimes. We become too comfortable to get up and bag what we truly deserve. And it's especially more agonizing when we give up after having come so close. The situation only gets worse. It was bark of one dog that was enough to shoo them all away. One dog, one distraction. And we get bombarded with so many barks in form of notification to hardly view the trophy. In my opinion, a person who is lazy and distracted is no better than a zombie. Stay away from them if you don't want your heads eaten. Sergeant Parks puts the mask and the handcuffs back on and they continue the journey through the abandoned city. The doctor thinks it's the next stage in the life cycle of the fungus. She then tells Melanie that in her case, the fungus works more as a symbiote than a parasite like in the others. Caldwell has a theory. When enough of them come together, they transform into the mature stage of the fungus that can pollinate larger areas. On their way, they suddenly find a mobile laboratory. They get inside the vehicle and search to find something resourceful. Sergeant Park tries the engine first and then the radio. They get no response. Kieran is worried about food and supplies and so goes to see if he can find something. Meanwhile Melanie starts feeling uneasy and desires a hunt. So she's let out. After eating her food, she follows voices of few kids in back of the library that can be seen communicating by grunting sounds. Melanie returns and informs that there are many more like her. Only more wild and that Kieran might be in danger. Kieran finds himself in an abandoned store that is full of canned foods. He is feasting when suddenly a zombie child comes out. Kieran gets defensive and the child gets more of her pals. Together, they all make a feast out of Kieran. Back at the mobile lab, Caldwell is getting sicker and informs Justino that she has sepsis. Then she starts talking about Melanie again and how she needs her brain and spine to make the vaccine, much to Justino's displeasure. Melanie returns with the news of what she saw and lays her suspicions that Kieran might be in danger. Melanie is able to lead them all into the store as she can trail Kieran's scent. Only after getting inside do they realize that they walked into a trap of the kids who've learned to lure people and hunt them all. Melanie asks Sergeant Park and Justino to trust her and she goes out to battle with the ringleader. She takes him down in a duel and declares herself as new leader. She is able to walk them with safety to the mobile lab. After reaching TH lab, they find TH door open. They get in and Caldwell sedates them with a gas to steal Melanie. She puts her on table and moves forward to perform the procedure but is unable to as she is in excruciating pain. She gets back up after God knows how long but finds Melanie standing behind her. She asks Melanie to give herself up. Melanie almost agrees, but asks one last question. She wants to know if the doctor thinks she's alive or just mimicking human behavior. Caldwell answers with the former. Then the girl asks why should she have to die to save anybody. Melanie runs out, leaving the doctor in the lab, but she follows her. Caldwell is immediately surrounded by the zombie children. She meets same fate as Kieran. Melanie then goes to the huge fungus they found before. She sets it on fire with the intention to activate the spores. In the final moments of the film, Justin O is woken up by Melanie. Some time has passed. She takes out a whiteboard with her and starts a class with the zombie children listening to her from the other side of the lab window. Melanie is their leader now and they all attend Miss Justin O's lessons together. The movie begs of a few important questions. Would we be okay to become a vessel for next evolution? And what if that happens in front of our eyes? Would we be then okay to see our race perish and see another one rise to claim our ranks? How right was Justin O in letting Melanie thrive at the expense of humanity? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. See you in next one.